Yesterday, the United States Supreme Court delivered a sweeping victory to Donald Trump and at the same time a decisive blow to the very foundations of our democracy. Before I break down that decision and spell out for you its implications, first I would like to share with you this excerpt from the remarks that President Biden gave last night at 7:45 p.m. to the nation.
No one is above the law. Not even the President of the United States. With today's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed. For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent. I know I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years. But any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law.
That was a correct, although high-level description of the impact of yesterday's decision. So what did President Biden mean when he said that as a result, there now is virtually no limit on what a president can do? Allow me to break that down using the framework offered in the majority decision that was penned by Chief Justice Roberts. According to the majority, there are 3 categories of conduct that a president might engage in. For that first category, and let me read from this, the president is absolutely immune from criminal prosecution. So what is that first category? It relates to conduct within his exclusive sphere of constitutional authority. Examples of conduct in that exclusive sphere include the pardon power or acting as commander-in-chief of the military forces, for example. Now, that second category of conduct, the president would have a presumptive immunity from criminal prosecution. So what is that category? It involves acts within what's called the outer perimeter of his official responsibility. In other words, anything that is deemed to be an official act. Let's talk about the third category of conduct. That category is non-official acts. And for the non-official acts, the president would have no immunity. Now, what's even more troubling is that even if a criminal indictment against a former president only makes allegations related to clearly unofficial conduct, the prosecution cannot bring into evidence anything at all that the president did that was official conduct. My second topic is, now what? What does yesterday's Supreme Court decision mean for the federal prosecution taking place right now in the District of Columbia, the one that had been put on hold related to Donald Trump's alleged interference in the 2020 election?
Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The attack on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election.
The Supreme Court provided some guidance when it sent the case back down to the trial court, asking Judge Chutkan to engage in some kind of fact-finding to draw a line between the official and the unofficial acts. She now has been ordered to engage in a fact-finding expedition, which would likely be looking a lot like a mini trial. Now, when would that take place? The earliest would be in September, because she had promised 60 days of discovery, and that would probably begin next week after the holiday. I believe Chutkan will absolutely do this. It is important to move the case forward, and this kind of evidentiary hearing would be open to the press. And of course, Roberts is not hands off. There is a lot of language in this decision meaning to guide Judge Chutkan as to what they believe might fall within the official act versus the non-official act. So they've already taken some conduct off the table. They've said conversations that Donald Trump had with his acting attorney general, that would be Jeffrey Rosen, cannot even be discussed, not even as evidence. And my third topic is, yes, you guessed it, now Donald Trump, as a result of this decision, is trying to get Judge Merchan in New York to set aside the guilty verdict against him. Remember, Donald Trump was found guilty on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records related to covering up these hush money payments made to Stormy Daniels in order to interfere in the 2016 election. What his lawyers did last night was to write a letter to Judge Merchan asking permission to file a motion setting aside the verdict. Now, the deadline has already passed for filing post-judgment motions. However, we will see whether the court allows this to be filed. And, of course, if Merchan decides to deny the motion, what Donald Trump does next. Remember that the sentencing is scheduled for next Thursday. Welcome to Crazy Town. Make yourself at home. Crazy Town now is the United States of America. Yes, July 4th used to be Independence Day, the holiday when we celebrated the fact that we had broken free from a monarchy. But what does that holiday mean anymore? Our new celebration should be July 1st, and we can call it Coronation Day. Okay, but seriously, in order to see why we are living in Crazy Town, I'd like to read from you an excerpt from Justice Sotomayor's dissent in yesterday's decision, because I think this will get to the point. The court effectively creates a law-free zone around the president, upsetting the status quo that has existed since the founding. This new official acts immunity now lies about like a loaded weapon for any president that wishes to place his own interests, his own political survival, or his financial gain above the interests of the nation. The President of the United States is the most powerful person in the country and possibly the world. When he uses his official powers in any way, under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Orders the Navy SEALs Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power, immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune, 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 immune. I will see you later today at Nerd Avengers, because it is only Tuesday, if you can believe it.